We move to item 3 on non-government business, medicinal cannabis discrimination. The Honourable Sophia Mormont.
Thank you, President. So I move that this House condemns the recent decision by Rio Tinto to stipulate that none of its employees, regardless of their role or location, may continue in their employment if they are found to be taking legally prescribed medicinal cannabis, and B, reaffirms the principle that workers across Western Australia have the right to receive the very best standards of medical care, which should be guided by qualified medical professionals and not by corporate CEOs.
The Honourable Sophia Mormont has moved that motion, and the question is the motion be agreed. The Honourable Sophia Mormont.
Thank you, President. So recently Rio Tinto changed the testing regime for the presence of THC from a swab test to a urine test. So the urine test is much more sensitive than a swab test, and what that means is that those who are on medicinal cannabis will test positive even after 5 to 6 weeks since their last use. So obviously that can cause problems for people taking cannabis medicinally. Now, the reason given for this by Rio Tinto is that there are no reliable methods to determine a safe dosage for medicinal cannabis in a high-risk workplace, unlike other medications. So this has led to Rio Tinto stating that employees must first declare their use of all medicinal cannabis products, as well as include inform them that they are using CBD-only preparations. Now, CBD-only does not have a psychoactive effect as such. It can help regulate people with anxiety, is very useful for pain in general, and it can help with sleep as well. But it doesn't alter the way you experience the world in any sort of way. The reason why people might use CBD-only products are numerous, and one of the reasons that they choose to go down that path may well be because THC is not allowed at their workplace. So it was quite surprising that Rio Tinto has decided to also not allow for CBD products, and I'm not quite sure what they are basing that on, because we haven't been able to find any decent science to support the exclusion of CBD. Now, if workplace screening and confirmatory testing indicates the presence of THC, the worker may be subjected to disciplinary action, which can include termination of employment. It may also happen that that person is requested to work from home for a while. Now, I want to make it absolutely clear that the Legalised Cannabis Party as a whole, and us here today, don't want any individuals who are impaired in any way in a high-risk situation. We don't want them on the road, we don't want them in factories, and we don't want them in the mines. So safety is important, and no one should ever be put at risk. The issue here is that the testing method used is incredibly sensitive. And since THC is a fat-soluble chemical, it can last in the body, in the fat cells for quite a long time, for up to months afterwards. So even if someone hasn't had cannabis for a while, but they might be on a diet at the time of testing where the THC was actually stored in their fat cells, it can then be released and they can test positive. The other way of testing for cannabis, which is or any drug for that matter, can be a hair test, a hair analysis test. Now, they often use the root from the hair to test as well, and that once again can pick up on a wide variety of substances, but also nutritional status over quite a long period of time. So way after any effects that might have occurred due to taking cannabis in any form, and up to months, and I read one example of up to years afterwards. So that doesn't seem logical to test for that, but if you're going to use urine analysis to test for THC and you are really concerned about the level of THC present in a person because you have no idea when they are impaired or not, which is quite bizarre, you should actually be using hair testing for ultimate results and accuracy. So what has been found in general is that when people use cannabis, so if they were to smoke or vape, the effects last for about 4 to 6 hours. So people who use this going to bed, for instance, hopefully they have a really good night's sleep, they wake up in the morning and it'll be 6 to 8 hours later after going to bed, and then it would be another, I don't know, maybe an hour or two before they're actually at work and dealing with heavy machinery. So that puts it up to 10 hours after, way past that time frame of 4 to 6 hours. Now, prior to using the urine testing, they were using a swab test, the same sort of swab test that is used by the Western Australian Police and also on mine sites and in other occupational health and safety environments. So the swab test can show recent use. It picks up that 4 to 6 hour window where you may still be feeling the effects of THC. So that means that if someone is, they took it for sleep, they woke up the next day, they go to work, that test, they would be able to pass that. But that is also, at that stage, there won't be any obvious effect relating to cannabis use left over. All the effects would have worn off by then. So the tests are also quite easy and non-invasive to apply, which is why the WA Police uses that. Now, I feel if it is good enough for our road users to be considered unimpaired when they pass one of those tests, I would have thought that same level of care would be sufficient for a mining company as well. There is actually also plenty of research out there supporting what we're talking about today. The Lambert Initiative and other reports from overseas all claim that 4 to 6 hour window, depending on the method of consumption. Now, the thing is that we're talking about medicinal cannabis here. We're not talking about some other recreational drug that people might be using. This is a legally prescribed medicine for that particular person. Now, they would have been given instructions by their doctor on how to use it, okay? And their doctor, their healthcare practitioner, would know that at the dosage and following those instructions that that person is not going to be a danger to society by being impaired on the road or in a factory. So in the end, though, we all want to have a good night's sleep. So I quite see the benefit of using medicinal cannabis in a mining situation because of the hours that people work at can be disruptive to their normal sleeping patterns. All right, now, Rio Tinto is the one company that we're talking about here today. It does test for opioids as well, but it is more stringent in its testing for cannabis than it is with opioids. Now, with opioids, if you test positive, they stand you down, they send you to the laboratory to test, and if it's below a certain level, you can continue with your work. So this would be easy to implement in a sense for cannabis as well. You might be able to test for impairment, specifically with like an app called Druid that tests memory, task switching, reaction speed, and balance. And if someone were to be on medicinal cannabis, you would set their test up for them, they would do it every day when they come into work, and it would very clearly pick up whether they are impaired or not. Now, currently the method that Rio Tinto has chosen goes above and beyond the mine safety and inspections regulations from 1995. So other mining companies obviously find those guidelines to be sufficient, but Rio Tinto has gone beyond that. Now, we are testing for a lot of things that also cause impairment in people, and we might be talking about stress, sleep deprivation, even things like physiological conditions, if you have a cold, pain, or if you're going through menopause as a woman or andropause as a as a man, those conditions can affect your cognition as well. Other drugs that are commonly available that people use that may indeed affect their functioning are things like stimulants, and we're looking at nicotine and caffeine there. So imagine being a surgeon who's doing some work on the inner ear of someone, very fine work, and you've just had 3 cups of coffee. You may well have a slight tremor, okay? So I do wonder if Rio Tinto is watching what their employees are drinking in the morning before they go to work. Now, stimulants overall can make your heart beat faster, your blood pressure go up, can affect your body temperature as well, can lead to heat exhaustion or even heat stroke. Obviously, that's very pertinent in the mining industry. And once again, you're looking at sleeplessness, but the tremors are the main things that could affect functioning in a high-risk environment. We've also got sedative substances that people can just simply buy over the counter. We've got phenergan and doxylamine, which are 2 antihistamines which cross the blood-brain barrier and can cause sleepiness, drowsiness, dizziness, and overall sedation. Now, a lot of medications for pain can also affect function as well, and obviously, like I said, the opioids are tested for, but they are also commonly available. Now, the issue with some of the opioids as painkillers is that they are addictive and you may need more and more to help manage your pain. When you look at medicinal cannabis, you don't necessarily need more and more, and it is not addictive. So taking away that choice from people, what choice of medicine that they actually want to use, I feel is against their human rights. We should have a choice about what medicine we want to use, and we should not be forced into using medicines that have negative side effects for us. We've also got some other drugs that can affect function. Statins are quite a common one. They help lower cholesterol. And what is interesting about that is that your brain is about 25% cholesterol, and it is well documented that people who are starting to take statins can have memory problems. Now, I saw this both happen in my parents, and I also had treated quite a few patients who came to me stating they had started on a statin for their cholesterol, and they found that their cognition had declined because of that. Now, there's some excellent research that's been done by a lovely woman named Marianne Damasi. She spoke about the negative effects of statins on people. So cognition is one thing. The other thing that statins interfere with is muscular function. So statins interfere with the production of coenzyme Q10, which is what your muscles run on for energy. And people who start them often have quite a lot of pain in their legs. Which obviously they then could take opioids for, and I'm sure that will really benefit their health in the long term. Other medications which can have quite rapid effects that are easily available are your non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, your NSAIDs, of which ibuprofen is one of those, and they can increase the risk of bleeding, affect blood pressure, kidneys, and worsen heart failures. Yet they are quite common, okay? And once again, medicinal cannabis might be a much more useful and less dangerous substance to take to help manage your pain. An interesting little fact is that drug-related deaths from prescribed drugs are more common than those for illegal drugs. And unfortunately, at the time when that statement was made, cannabis was still illegal, but nobody actually has died from cannabis. So the reason that was given by Rio Tinto was for going to urine analysis was to make sure that they're the highest level of testing available. But it actually interferes with the personal freedoms of their employees. It is also interesting to note that all of their staff is being tested. So even if you have a job at a desk where you're sitting down, you drive to work, you come into work, you sit down at a desk, you're not really doing any sort of high level security work, okay, those employees can also get fired from their job as well. And the thing is, there's a double standard there too, because we don't apply these same rules to, say, our electricians or our tradies or our plumbers, that we just come, people that might come into our house and work with, in a high-risk situation, putting in air conditioners or putting in electricity into bathrooms or wherever else in the house that it's needed. What has been noted too is that there are people that, employees that in the mining industry that have quite a good income. They go home for their week off and they party in that week. And one of those drugs that they party with is methamphetamine. Now, methamphetamine clears from the blood and saliva in about 2 days. All right, so these people, they party hard, their sleep is interrupted, they go back to site, okay, they are fatigued, and they go through a mini withdrawal at that stage. And I've had several people in the mining industry tell me that they have observed in their colleagues that the first couple of days that they're back from their break, they're actually fatigued and they need to pick up the slack. So it would make a big difference. And having spoken to some of those people who are using methamphetamine, they also would like to be able to simply use cannabis while they're at home to party with. Not that I'm saying that all of that is a good thing necessarily. I'm just saying this is what's happening out there. And those people that come back to site that are tired, sleep deprived, going through mini withdrawal are actually a high security risk, but the blood tests or urine tests won't pick up any of that. And I would think that a company like Rio Tinto would be very much interested in maintaining safety on their site, and this is something that they are not picking up on. Also, if I were to go on holidays to a country where it's legal to use cannabis recreationally and then come back, I could lose my job at that stage as well. Now, I don't think that an employer should be able to regulate what you do on your holidays or don't, especially if it is in the country that you're visiting, it is a legal activity. Impairment testing is absolutely the gold standard in occupational health and safety, and that, like I said earlier, involves memory, speed, task switching, and balance, and peripheral vision can be a part of that as well, and that would really ensure a very safe workplace and also a high level of safety on our roads as well. So I'm not quite sure why Rio Tinto has decided to go the way they have, because there is actually a lot of research out there, and employees should have the right to use the medication that they think will work best for them.